She said she loved you, but somehow you always felt like a mirror, not a child. A reflection she needed to polish, to shape, to perfect. Not for you, but for her. She didn't hit you. She didn't leave. She just rewrote your reality until you doubted your own feelings. And now, years later, you still flinch when someone says, "Mom." You think you're broken. But what if I told you you were trained to feel that way? This is about your narcissistic mother, and it's time to understand what she really took from you. Most people don't want to believe their mother hurt them. They'd rather blame themselves. She was doing her best. She had a rough childhood. She just wanted what's best for me. And maybe all that is true, but that doesn't make your pain untrue. Carl Jung wrote about the devouring mother, a figure who, under the guise of love, slowly consumes the child's identity. She controls through guilt. She gives affection with strings attached. She hides criticism behind concern. And worst of all, she teaches you that love is earned, not given. A narcissistic mother doesn't need to be loud. She can be quiet, composed, generous even. She could be the mother everyone else admires. The one who volunteers at school. The one who bakes perfect cookies. The one who posts loving photos on social media. But behind every gift is an expectation. Behind every "I love you" is a performance you must maintain. Behind every smile is a careful calculation of whether you're being good enough, grateful enough, perfect enough. And if you grew up with her, you learned to be what she needed, not who you were. You learned to anticipate her moods like a meteorologist reading storm clouds. You learned to shrink your needs until they were invisible. You learned to smile when it hurt, to apologize when you did nothing wrong, to celebrate her achievements while minimizing your own. You became the perfect daughter, the one who never caused problems, the one who made her look good, the one who reflected her idealized image back to her. But it cost you your soul, because somewhere along the way, you forgot that you existed separate from her approval. You forgot that your feelings mattered even when they inconvenienced her. You forgot that you had a right to your own dreams, your own voice, your own truth. And now, decades later, you're still trying to remember who you were before you learned to disappear. Let me tell you about Olivia. She's 35, a nurse, always praised for being so responsible, so sweet, so giving. At work, she's the one everyone turns to when they need someone reliable. She never complains about extra shifts. She never says no when colleagues need coverage. Her performance reviews are flawless. But inside, she's drowning. She can't say no without guilt crushing her chest. She can't rest without anxiety telling her she's being lazy. She can't enjoy compliments without hearing a voice whisper, "Don't get too comfortable." And in her relationships, she always ends up with emotionally unavailable men. Men who want her empathy but never give it back. Men who take her nurturing for granted. Men who disappear when she needs support but expect her to be their therapist when they're struggling. It's a pattern she can't seem to break, no matter how many self-help books she reads or how many times her therapist tells her she deserves better. Here's why. Olivia's mother wasn't violent. She wasn't absent. In fact, she was always there, hovering, watching, commenting on Olivia's body when she reached for seconds at dinner, editing her clothes before she left the house, questioning her choices, her friends, her dreams. When Olivia got an A, her mom asked why it wasn't A+. When she cried, her mom asked, "Are you really going to be dramatic right now?" When she was excited about something, her mom found the flaw, the risk, the reason to be realistic. When she needed comfort, her mom gave advice instead of hugs. When she tried to share her feelings, her mom made it about her own experiences. You think you have it hard? When I was your age, you're being too sensitive. Other kids would be grateful for what you have. That's the trap. Emotional invalidation wrapped in the language of love. And it carves a blueprint deep inside you. Love means proving your worth. Peace means avoiding conflict. Happiness means not disappointing her. Safety means being invisible. Connection means giving until you're empty. You grow up fearing your own emotions because they were always inconvenient to her. You learn to filter every decision through an imaginary mother's gaze, asking not "what do I want?" but what would make her proud. You become your own inner critic, one who sounds suspiciously like her. Pause here for a moment. Take a breath. Is this what you've been carrying all along? You never needed to be perfect, but she needed you to be, because your success was her reflection. Your failure was her shame. Your achievements were her validation. Your struggles were her embarrassment. Carl Jung called this identification with the mother complex. It's when your psyche is still entangled with hers, even when she's far away, even when she's gone. You still hear her voice when you look in the mirror. You still ask yourself, would she approve of this version of me? But here's what Jung understood that most people miss. We inherit more than just genes from our parents. We inherit their unlived dreams, their suppressed fears, their unhealed wounds. We inherit their emotional blueprint and mistake it for our own. Your mother couldn't regulate her own anxiety, so she regulated you instead. She couldn't face her own shame, so she projected it onto your choices. She couldn't love herself unconditionally, so she taught you that love was conditional too. She couldn't tolerate her own big emotions, so she taught you to suppress yours. She couldn't handle criticism, so she trained you to be a people pleaser. She couldn't sit with uncertainty, so she made you into a perfectionist. This is what Jung meant by the shadow of the mother archetype, the dark, unconscious aspects that get passed down through generations like inherited trauma. It's not about blame. It's about awareness. Because until you see the blueprint she built inside you, you'll keep following it without knowing why. You'll keep choosing partners who can't see you, just like she couldn't. You'll keep dimming your light to make others comfortable, just like you did for her. You'll keep betraying yourself for acceptance, just like she taught you to do. And you'll keep wondering why you feel so empty, so anxious, so disconnected from your own life. The answer isn't in working harder or being better. The answer is in understanding that you're still living according to her rules, her fears, her limitations, and you have the power to choose differently. There's something few people talk about, not in therapy, not in self-help books, not even in trauma support groups. It's not just the pain your narcissistic mother caused. It's the loyalty you still carry, the invisible contract you signed long before you could speak. Jung described this as unconscious identification with a mother archetype. It's when her voice becomes your own, when you police yourself the way she used to, when you dim your light so she doesn't feel overshadowed, even if she's no longer around. The contract says, if my mother couldn't feel safe, I won't let myself feel free. If she couldn't be vulnerable, then I won't be either. If she needed me to make her feel worthy, I'll keep performing for her forever. If she couldn't handle my big emotions, I'll keep them small. If she couldn't celebrate my success without jealousy, I'll keep achieving in secret. If she needed me to be her emotional support system, I'll never ask for support myself. And here's the hardest part. You think you're protecting her, but you're actually abandoning yourself. You say, she didn't mean to hurt me. She had a hard life. She loved me in her own way. She was just scared. She was doing what she thought was best. Maybe all of that is true, but your nervous system doesn't respond to her intentions. It responds to what she actually did. The gaslighting when you try to name your reality. The guilt trips when you set boundaries. The emotional enmeshment when she made you her confidant and therapist. The silence when you needed softness. The criticism disguised as concern. The love that disappeared when you said no. The attention that only came when you achieved something she could brag about. If this part hits something in you, keep going. The next few minutes might feel like a mirror. You didn't betray her by wanting your own life. You didn't betray her by having needs she couldn't meet. You didn't betray her by setting boundaries. But you do betray yourself every time you ignore your own pain. Every time you minimize your experiences. Every time you make excuses for her behavior while holding yourself to impossible standards. As Jung wrote, nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment, and especially on their children, than the unlived life of the parent. And your mother, she made her unlived life your responsibility. She couldn't be authentic, so you learned to perform. She couldn't handle criticism, so you learned to people please. She couldn't sit with difficult emotions, so you learned to suppress yours. She couldn't ask for help, so you learned to be self-sufficient to the point of isolation. She couldn't trust her own worth, so you learned that your value came from what you could do for others. She couldn't enjoy her own life, so you learned to feel guilty for enjoying yours. This is what Jung called the transcendent function, the unconscious process by which we try to bridge opposing forces within ourselves. But when you're a child, you don't have the tools to transcend anything. You just adapt. You survive. You learn that your feelings are too much. Your needs are selfish. Your authentic self is somehow wrong. And so you create what Jung called a persona, a mask that pleases others while hiding your true nature. The problem is, you wore that mask for so long, you forgot there was a face underneath. You forgot that you're allowed to take up space, to have opinions that differ from hers, to choose your own values, your own path, your own definition of success. You forgot that you're not responsible for her emotional regulation. You never were. You forgot that her inability to love herself fully wasn't your fault, and it's not your job to fix. You forgot that you can love her and still choose yourself. You forgot that saying no to her demands doesn't make you a bad daughter. It makes you a whole person. You forgot that your success doesn't diminish her, and your growth doesn't abandon her. You forgot that you're allowed to have a different opinion, a different path, a different definition of what makes life meaningful. But remembering this, it feels like betrayal, because she trained you to believe that your independence was her abandonment, that your happiness somehow diminished hers, that your growth away from her was a rejection of her love. She taught you that love means sacrifice, but only your sacrifice, never hers. She taught you that family means loyalty, but only your loyalty, never questioning hers. She taught you that respect means obedience, but only your obedience, never earning yours. She taught you that gratitude means silence about pain, but only your silence, never her accountability. This is what Jung called psychological incest, when a parent uses the child to meet their own emotional needs instead of helping the child develop their own identity. It's not sexual, but it's a violation of boundaries nonetheless. It's making the child responsible for the parent's emotional well-being. It's treating the child as an extension of the parent rather than as a separate being with their own needs, feelings, and destiny. That's the cruelest part of narcissistic parenting. She didn't just hurt you. She made you complicit in your own diminishment. She taught you to betray yourself and call it loyalty. She taught you to abandon your needs and call it love. She taught you to silence your voice and call it respect. And now, even though you're an adult, even though you might live far away, even though you might have your own family, you still hear her voice telling you what's acceptable, what's too much, what's selfish, what's ungrateful. You still feel her disapproval like a physical weight when you consider putting yourself first. You still apologize for having needs, for taking up space, for wanting more than she could give. This is the invisible contract, and it's time to break it. Not by cutting her out of your life, though that might be necessary for some. Not by confronting her, though that might be healing for others. But by recognizing that the mother who lives in your head isn't the same as the woman who raised you. The mother in your head is your creation now, and you have the power to change her voice. Let me tell you about Maya. She's 38, an artist by soul, but a marketing executive by profession. Her paintings are bold, full of color, full of life, swirling canvases that seem to breathe with emotion and truth. But she hides them, keeps them stacked in a closet like shameful secrets. Says they're not good enough to show, not professional enough to matter. Her mother used to say, "Art won't feed you, Maya. Don't embarrass yourself with your little hobby. Be practical. Be smart. Be someone I can be proud of. Look at your cousin Sarah. She's a doctor now. That's a real career. Art is for people who don't have to worry about money. What will people think when you fail?" So Maya became a marketing executive. Her resume is perfect. Her LinkedIn profile gleams with accomplishments. Her smile is polished in professional photos. But her soul is starving. Every morning, she puts on clothes that feel like a costume. Every meeting, she presents ideas that feel hollow. Every promotion feels like a step further away from who she really is. And every time someone compliments her creativity, the way she solves problems, the beauty of her presentations. She hears her mother's voice. Don't get a big head. People will laugh at you. Who do you think you are? This is how the narcissistic mother lives inside you. Not always through violence, but through control. Through the slow erosion of your trust in your own desires, your own instincts, your own worth. She didn't break your spirit outright. She just trained you to break it yourself. But here's the shift that changes everything. You don't heal by changing her. You heal by becoming what she could never be. By choosing freedom over fear, expression over shame, honesty over performance, authenticity over approval. By holding your inner child and whispering, you don't have to earn love anymore. You're allowed to exist exactly as you are. You don't owe her your silence, your achievements, or your obedience. Take a moment here. Ask yourself, what parts of me did I hide to keep her comfortable? What dreams did I bury to avoid her criticism? You are not responsible for her healing. You never were. But you are responsible for your own. And that starts with grieving, not just what she did to you, but everything she never could be for you. The mother who could celebrate your joy without jealousy. The mother who could see your pain without making it about her. The mother who could love your authentic self instead of the version that made her feel good. The mother who could say, "I'm sorry," when she hurt you. The mother who could encourage your dreams instead of limiting them with her fears. Because when you grieve her limitations, you make room to choose differently. Jung wrote about what he called individuation, the process of becoming your authentic self, separate from the unconscious patterns you inherited. It's not about rejecting everything your mother taught you. Some of her lessons might have been beautiful and true. It's about consciously choosing what serves you and releasing what doesn't. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you buried to keep the peace. Maya started painting again, not because her mother finally approved, but because her soul demanded it. She learned to hear the difference between her mother's voice and her own inner wisdom. Her mother's voice says, "What will people think?" Her inner wisdom says, "What feels true?" Her mother's voice says, "Don't be too much." Her inner wisdom says, "You are exactly enough." Her mother's voice says, "Play it safe." Her inner wisdom says, "Risk being seen." Her mother's voice says, "You're being selfish." Her inner wisdom says, "You're being authentic." This is what Jung meant by integrating the shadow, not by denying the dark parts, but by bringing them into conscious awareness, by owning what belongs to you and returning what belongs to others. Your mother's pain lives in your shadow. Her fear of inadequacy became your perfectionism. Her terror of abandonment became your people-pleasing. Her inability to trust became your hypervigilance. Her shame became your self-criticism. But when you see these patterns clearly, without judgment, with compassion, you can choose something different. You can feel her anxiety without making it yours. You can witness her pain without fixing it. You can love her humanity while protecting your own. You can honor what she gave you while releasing what she couldn't. Let me tell you about another woman. Let's call her Rachel. Rachel is 42, a successful therapist who helps others heal from family trauma. On the surface, she has it all together. She's compassionate, insightful, professionally respected. But for years, she couldn't understand why she felt so depleted after every conversation with her mother. Her mother wasn't overtly abusive. She was just needy, constantly calling with crises that weren't really crises, making Rachel feel guilty for living 3 states away, competing for attention whenever Rachel shared good news. "Oh, that reminds me of when I..." would be her response to Rachel's achievements. "You're so lucky," she'd say with a sigh that made Rachel feel guilty for her happiness. "I guess I'll just be alone," she'd say whenever Rachel couldn't drop everything to visit. Rachel spent years feeling like a terrible daughter, until she realized she wasn't responsible for her mother's loneliness. She wasn't responsible for her mother's unfulfilled dreams. She wasn't responsible for filling the void that her mother felt inside. She could love her mother and still have boundaries. She could be a good daughter without sacrificing her own well-being. She could honor her mother's struggles without taking them on as her own. As Jung said, individuation means becoming an individual, and insofar as individuality embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self. And you cannot become yourself while still performing as her fantasy of who you should be. You cannot heal while still carrying her wounds as if they were your own. You cannot thrive while still shrinking to make her comfortable. The path forward isn't about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about learning to love from a place of wholeness instead of obligation. It's about becoming the person you were meant to be before you learned to disappear. Here's the truth that changes everything. Your real mother isn't just the woman who raised you. It's the voice inside your head. And that voice can be rewritten. You don't need to keep proving your worth to an internal judge who will never be satisfied. You don't need to keep suppressing your anger at being unseen and unheard. You don't need to keep apologizing for taking up space in your own life. You don't need to keep sacrificing your dreams on the altar of her approval. You can become the mother you always needed. The one who celebrates your joy without jealousy or competition. The one who sees your pain without guilt tripping you or making it about her own struggles. The one who holds your boundaries with respect instead of punishment or manipulation. The one who encourages your authentic expression instead of molding you into her image of acceptability. The one who says, "I'm proud of you for being yourself, not for being what she needs you to be." That's what Jung meant by integrating the shadow of the mother. Not denying what she did, not pretending it didn't hurt, not excusing her behavior or minimizing your pain, but transforming the image of her you carry inside you into something healing. You're not just a reflection anymore. You are not her emotional support system. You are not her second chance at life. You are not responsible for her happiness or her healing. You are your own being. You are your own witness. You are your own safe place. When you feel afraid of disappointing others, afraid of being too much, afraid of failure, you can say, "It's okay. I've got you now." You don't have to be perfect to be loved. When you feel shame for your needs, your emotions, your desires, you can whisper. You are allowed to want what you want. You're allowed to feel what you feel. Your inner world matters. When you feel joy, real, unbridled, authentic joy, you can smile without flinching, without waiting for the other shoe to drop, because now it's safe to be seen in your fullness. Here's your invitation. Put your hand on your chest. Breathe. Feel the weight of generational patterns loosening. Feel the space opening up for your authentic self to emerge. And say this out loud. I'm not my mother's mirror. I'm not her emotional caretaker. I'm not her unfinished business. I'm my own light. The cycle breaks with me. You will never heal until you understand this. It wasn't your fault. The emotional neglect, the invalidation, the pressure to be someone other than yourself. None of it was your fault. It never was. But now, it's your responsibility to become free. Not by waiting for her to change. Not by getting her to understand. Not by earning her approval or her apology. But by choosing yourself. By becoming your own advocate. By reparenting the wounded child inside you with the love and acceptance you always deserved. Let the mother inside you be reborn. Not in her image, but in your truth. Not according to her limitations, but according to your limitless potential for growth and healing. This is what healing the mother wound looks like. This is Carl Jung Shadow work in its most powerful form. This is what coming home to yourself feels like. Write a letter to the little girl inside you. What does she need to hear? What would the mother you needed have said to her? What permissions would she have given you? What dreams would she have celebrated? Be as specific and tender as possible. Here's some phrases that might help you begin. You're not responsible for making me feel good about myself. Your feelings are important and valid, even when they're inconvenient. You don't have to earn my love. You already have it. It's safe for you to be angry when someone hurts you. Your dreams matter, even if they're different from what I wanted for you. You can say no to me and still be a good daughter. Your needs are not selfish, they're human. You can disagree with me and I will still love you. You don't have to take care of my emotions. That's my job. You can shine brightly without worrying about overshadowing me. Practice saying these things to yourself. Practice believing them. Practice living as if they're true, because they are. The path forward isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about learning to mother yourself with the tenderness you never received. It's about becoming curious about your own needs instead of dismissive. It's about celebrating your victories instead of minimizing them. It's about comforting your fears instead of criticizing them. It's about listening to your body when it says it's tired, instead of pushing through because that's what she would have wanted. It's about trusting your instincts when something feels wrong, instead of gaslighting yourself because questioning others makes you uncomfortable. It's about saying, "This hurts," when someone treats you poorly, instead of making excuses for their behavior. It's about breaking the cycle, not through anger or revenge, but through the radical act of loving yourself unconditionally. This work isn't easy. There will be days when the old patterns feel stronger than your new awareness. Days when you slip back into people-pleasing, perfectionism, and self-abandonment. That's normal. That's part of the process. Healing isn't linear, and you don't have to get it right all the time. What matters is that you keep coming back to yourself. Keep choosing your truth over her programming. Keep remembering that you deserve love without conditions, care without strings attached, acceptance without performance. Your mother may never change. She may never see the impact of her parenting. She may never apologize or acknowledge your pain. She may never become the mother you needed her to be. But you can change. You can see yourself clearly. You can apologize to yourself for all the years you betrayed your own heart. You can learn to trust your own perceptions. You can learn to validate your own emotions. You can learn to celebrate your own achievements. You can learn to comfort your own pain. You can become the person who never abandons you, even when others do. You can become the voice of unconditional love that you've been searching for your entire life. You can become your own safe harbor in a world that often feels unsafe. This is what Jung meant by the transcendent function, the ability to hold opposing truths simultaneously. You can love your mother and acknowledge her limitations. You can grieve what she couldn't give you while celebrating what you can give yourself. You can honor your past while choosing your future. You can break the cycle while still holding compassion for the wounded little girl your mother once was, the one who never learned how to love without conditions, how to give without expecting, how to see her children as separate beings worthy of unconditional love. And if this video spoke to something deep in you, something that's been waiting to be seen and understood, leave a comment below that simply says, "The cycle breaks with me." Let's create a space for healing, for every daughter who was taught to betray herself just to be loved, for every woman brave enough to choose a different legacy, for every person ready to rewrite the story they inherited. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, not to fix them, not to prove a point about their family, but to offer them the same gift of recognition and understanding that you've experienced today. Your healing ripples outward. When you break the cycle in your own life, you create space for others to do the same. When you choose yourself, you give others permission to choose themselves too. Your healing matters. Your voice matters. Your authentic self matters. The little girl inside you matters. The woman you're becoming matters. This isn't just about you and your mother. This is about every generation that comes after you. This is about the daughters you might have, the sons you might raise, the children in your life who will watch how you treat yourself and learn what love looks like. When you heal your relationship with yourself, you're not just changing your own life, you're changing the trajectory of love itself. If these insights resonated with you, if you felt seen and understood, subscribe for more Carl Jung Shadow healing content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss new insights about healing generational trauma and reclaiming your authentic self. The little girl in you has waited long enough to be truly cherished. It's time. Welcome home to yourself. Remember, you are not your mother's mirror. You are your own light. The cycle breaks with you.